All right, Shalom Aleichem, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the new. We're starting again from the beginning of Hilchos Dayanim, and we'll try to cover it this time, gruntig, as they say in the Olam HaYeshivas. We'll do it Mechaber, Ramah, Smeh, Pischei Tshuva, and Shach. Try to cover as much as we could, and if there's a nice Kitsos or an Asivist, we'll try to throw that in too. But more than all, the Olam HaLavdis, we actually want to learn it in a way that we know the material. I don't think anybody in this group is planning to become a dayan, but it's learning halachas that are interesting. Now, I don't think I recorded this, but last year, one was a Monday, I gave a short introduction based on the pasuk of Shoftim v'Shoitrim Titan Lecha B'chol Sha'arecha. And the Gemara and the Rambam goes on that there's a chiyuv that you have to have shoftim, those are judges, and you have to have policemen enforcing the rule of law, shoitrim. Now the pasuk says, "Titan lecha b'chol sha'arecha." It has to be given in every one of your sha'arim. So the Gemara goes on. The Rambam talks about that it has to be in every city and every state, every plach, every ear, and lishvatecha. And if there was a city or a state that had more than one shevet, it was split amongst shvatim. Each shevet needed its own dayan, its own bezdin. And the truth is that the halachas of batei dinim of din is one of the sheva mitzvahs b'nei noach, dinim. So it's not even something brand new, and we understand that the Eibishter says he created the world l'sheves yitzara, that it should be a civilized place, and as we say in Yiddish, mizol zich nishlogen. So here we have a group of guys. We have Baruch Hashem a minyan now, and in this minyan, could somebody tell Shalom Nemtsev? Could some Ari? He's welcome him in. He's somebody new. Can you tell him what to do? I'm going to take me 10 minutes to type it in. We have a group of guys, Baruch Hashem, and this group, most of us learned smicha. We learned Yeridea, and we got smicha. What is the difference between smicha and Dayanus, and why is it called smicha? So I'm going to start by jumping in to the smeh. I don't know if Matisyo or Elliot had a chance to listen to the recording I posted about who's who on the page of Choshe Mishpat. I have one in Yeridea, and I did it on Choshe Mishpat. So the Shach obviously is still the Sifsei Kohen. There's no the Taz is the Turizov, but it's not side by side the way in the Yeridea. Shach and Taz over here, it's the Smeh. Smeh is Sefer Me'iras Einoyim. The Me'iras Einoyim is the Smeh. He's the same person who writes the Prisha and the Drisha on the Torah. Okay, so I want to start this conversation by jumping to Smeh Seif Katan Tes. And Siman Aleph Smeh Seif Katan Tes. We're ultimately going to learn now, in today's shiur, that all those who have certificates hanging on their wall and they're all proud of themselves, today's shiur will be a needle to pop that bubble. Smicha ain't what you think it is. And just because you have smicha doesn't mean you have license to discuss and give rulings on all matters. There is smicha for inyanim of a isur v'heter. Smicha means, is the pot kosher or the pot not kosher? That's isur v'heter. And that's what you learn. What we do today, smicha for isur v'heter. And then there is dayanus. But why is it even called smicha? So the Mechaber and Ramon Sif Aleph will be discussing what is the status of a dayan today. Are we the real deal or not? And because we're not exactly what the Torah describes as a perfect dayan, not every matter we're able to handle. Some matters are above our pay grade, and we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait for Mashiach to come to settle this thing. So when the Mechaber speaks about different items that a dayan today, even a dayan today, cannot discuss, cannot preside over, the Mechaber at the end of Seif Aleph writes certain items, and we'll get to it in the middle of the shir, ein donin oisoi ela mumchim hasmuchim be'eretz Yisrael. The Mechaber says certain items cannot be judged by every pulpit rabbi, even with smicha. Certain items could only be judged by mumchim, by experts who were smuchim, which we call now smicha, be'eretz Yisrael. What are these three words? So look at them. Look at the smeh test. Hasmuchim, says the smeh. The Rambam Reish Perek Daled Sanhedrin Mevur. In the Rambam, in the 4th chapter of Sanhedrin, the Rambam explains the loshen smicha. This expression that we say, "Oh, you got smicha." What does smicha mean? Nispashet. It originates b'mashakasa b'Torah b'Moshe and Yeshua. The base is that the Torah uses that term when Moshe was handing over the leadership over to Yeshua. The pasuk says, "Vayismach yodav olav." Moshe Rabbeinu leaned his hands, placed his hands on Yeshua, Vayitzaveyu, and commanded him and gave him leadership. V'chein asel iskenim. Moshe Rabbeinu placed his hands on the elderly, the wise, who he appointed as this iskenim. So smicha was literally with the placing of the hands. What was great about Moshe Rabbeinu's placing of the hands? Al yedei zeh sharsa shchina aleim. By Moshe Rabbeinu putting his hands on the Zkenim or on Yeshua, voila, the Shechina dwelled on them. However, that was in the good old times. Hasmicha l'dairais. However, the smicha throughout the generations after Moshe Rabbeinu, loy haisa al yedei smichas yad. The word smicha means actually to lean. Right? The word smicha actually means to place hands. But once past Moshe Rabbeinu, there wasn't any more smichas yad. Ella shekoilin loy Rebbe. What happens is if a person is worthy enough, we give him the title Rebbe. And once you pass the test, right? That's what happened there. Once Rabbi Shacha tested you, we tell you, Hareyat Samuch, you are smichad, v'yesh lecha rishus ladun, and you would have permission to preside over a case, afilu dine knosses. Now this is not today. When Moshe Rabbeinu's times, he was soymech Yeshua, he was soymech dizkenim. Afterwards, there was no smichas yad. But once the person was worthy enough, was tested, or he had the qualifications, we would tell him, you have permission without the smichas yad. And you could run a din Torah even in matters of knossos, even in matters of not payment, punishment, you could even deal with. So why would that be called smicha? After all, after Moshe Rabbeinu, nobody did the smichas yad, so maybe we should call it something else. Maybe we should call it Rebbe. Says the Smeh, since everybody who was able to be called Rebbe has to find a lineage where it is from one of those Canaan that Moshe Rabbeinu gave smicha to. Ish mipi ish ad Yeshua shenismach biyad. You have to find a direct lineage that you are from a rabbi that came from a rabbi from not family. Your tradition, you learned from a rabbi that learned from another rabbi. Ish mipi ish. It has to be proven that it came all the way from Yeshua. As the Rambam over there says in Hilchos Sanhedrin, Imloi, the only exception to the rule is Be'isasfei, Kol Chachmei Eretz Yisrael Yachad, unless all the Jewish leaders together join today and they say, oh, this Chaim Yankel, we all agree should be a Rebbe. We all agree should be appointed as a Dayan. That never happens. But if it would happen, then today he would have a category of a Samuch. But if not for that situation with Asif Kol Rosh Hashanah, a regular guy who's applying for the job, or people find him to be worthy, unless we have the rabbi direct chain to Yeshua, Mishamhachi Nikra Smicha. That's why it's because it originates from somebody who did have the real smicha, the smichas yad. V'ayin b'rivash soif siman reish ayin aleph shakasav some. The Rivash discusses Inyan Smicha Shanoyegim Ashkenazim. Today's days, all these smicha programs, including online smicha and all this, is not that type of smicha whatsoever. Ramah, and the Ramah discusses it in Yeridea Siman Reish Mem Beis Yiv Yudalin, which is Hilchos Talmud Torah, which is the end of Hilchos Talmud Torah, where it tells you what is smicha today. So that is smicha and how it applies today. Finishes off the smeh, but the Mechaber didn't just use the word Dayanim Hasmuchim. The Mechaber said a triple header: Mumchim, Smuchim, and an Eretz Yisrael. What did the Mechaber mean by that? Shol Nemtzev, you hear me? I don't see you. Your camera should be lower. And I'm going to mute your mic this time, but make sure your mic is b'chlal muted. I'm finishing off Smeh. The Smeh is the Sefer Me'iras Hanayim. Smeh Tes. Masha Diktaka Mechaber. What the Mechaber was very careful to write. V'kostav Mumchim Hasmuchim be'Eretz Yisrael. Only they could judge certain cases. V'chein Diktek Achazeh b'Siv Beis. And he used the same terminology in Siv Beis. V'chein Bereish Siman Beis. What's he alluding to when he says only if they're mumchim smuchim be'eretz Yisrael? Because who mimashakastav Rambam. This is based on the halachim. The Rambam again also in Perek Dalet the Sanhedrin. The Rambam says Zel Lishoinei Ein Korui Elihim. The Rambam says a dayin. Elikim over here means a dayin. A dayin is not considered a dayin. Ela bezdin shenismach be'eretz Yisrael bevad. Only the title Elikim as a dayin, that's only a bezdin that got smicha in Eretz Yisrael. V'heim ha'anashim ha'chachamim, they are those wise men, v'hara'uyim, and the ones who are worthy, ladun. They are the worthy one, the suitable ones to judge. Shabatru eisam bezdin shel Eretz Yisrael. There was a bezdin of Eretz Yisrael that went over them. This is a good group of guys. Let's test them. Uminu oisam, and appointed them as dayanim. V'samchu oisam, and gave them smicha. These are all still a quote of the Rambam. And the Rambam over there goes on to say, this is only in Eretz Yisrael. Ein seimchim zikenim b'chutz la'aretz afilu haya hasamuch b'Eretz Yisrael v'anismach b'chutz la'aretz. So therefore, based on the Rambam, the Mechaber said that certain halachas cannot be dealt with unless you have the real deal smicha, which one of the qualifications would be in Israel. in Eretz Yisrael. All right, so why did I start with this smeh? Because I wanted you to know that the topic today in Sif Aleph is when you live in Borough Park or you live in Lakewood, and there are so many good learned people who are in Kailo for 30 years. They are big Talmidei Chachamim. It does not necessarily give them the right to be a Dayan. Now let me add, it does not, even if they qualified as the personality and they qualified as the knowledge and they got tested, they still can't be a Dayan. Why? Because for a Dayan today, we need another qualification. And that is, it has to be Samuch Ish Mipi Ish Ad Yeshua, which came from Moshe Rabbeinu. So how is it that we do have Bezdins? So the Mechaber will basically say in Sif Aleph, the Eibishter knows that our world is full of challenges. The Eibishter knows that our world, people don't get along, and there is always going to be issues. If Hashem will tell us that you don't have to have, you can't appoint a Bezdin today because they're not the real Dayanim, the world will look chaotic. So to prevent that, we allow certain Bezdins to deal with matters that have to be dealt with. If there is matters that could wait, or there is matters that is not earth-shattering, hey, Rabbi, you're a nice guy, you're a Dayan, all that, but you're not the real Dayan. At the very most, shlucha de rachmana anan. That's the term the Gemara uses. Today's days, the people who we call not rabbis, the people who we call Dayanim, are only being asked by the Rabbanan of the Gemara, hey, do me a favor, help us out. We don't want chaos in the world. Don't let it get to your head that you're the real deal. Represent us to help out. We need your help. But you're not the real deal. So how do you decide which matters a Bezdin of today, which is not Samuch Ish Mipi Ish? How do you decide if a Bezdin today could get involved and when they can't get involved? So the Mechaber says there is two conditions. Condition number one is there has to be a loss of money. If there's a loss of money, if we don't help out, people will hurt people, and there's not going to be any law. We can't defund the police, right? This is perfect. We have to have some kind of law and order in the term of halacha when there's chisar and kiss. So if there's no chisar and kiss, if it's not a question of a loss of money, hey, Rabbi, go back to your Gemara, learn very nicely, but there's no reason for you to get involved. Let it wait. There is no rush. Another condition is, even a matter of chisar and kiss, not every matter of chisar and kiss, the Chachamim made us, allowed us to take care of that matter. Only a chisar and kiss, which is matzui. Only a chisar and kiss, which is common. If it's a far-fetched loss of money, something that never happens, don't deal with it. You're not the suitable one to deal with. Those are the conditions. Those are the types of issues that today's days Dayanim may deal with. So if those are the two conditions, I'm going to throw a curveball here. By the way, I did not make up the chart over here. In the first chart on Sif Aleph, I have 20 different topics. And my question is, in these 20 topics, do you know if a Bezdin today could deal with those matters? Those 20 topics are not made up by me. they're in the Mechaber Ramah Shach and Smeh, and based on that, you have the answer to these 20 topics. So I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm going to start with Dine Yerusha. Should Bezdin have the right? In other words, you have to understand, if we really give Bezdin authorization to hand down the law, a verdict, then you have to follow that. So if there's a dispute about Yerusha, is it fair for a rabbi of today, a dayan of today, to have a say of a verdict in a dispute of a Yerusha? Yes or no? Would it fit the bill? So if the Yerusha is a Chesaron kiss, it has that point, and it also happens. People die. It's not nobody lives forever. So for Yerusha is Chesaron kiss and Matsui. Take this one, Binyamin. What's your answer for Kabbalah's Gerim? Maybe the dayan today to convert people. There is no money issues in converting. There is a guy who decided he likes the Jewish religion. He likes God. He wants to convert. There is no Chesaron kiss, and it's not Davar Matzoi. So why are there dayanim that are able to do gerus? And who says that they could? Maybe they can't. All right. So again, the whole thing is based on the fact that there is no real dayan today. So these 20 examples are in the Mechaber Ramah Shach and Smeh. When you go further down on the page, there's more examples from Sif Beis, and there's another one for Sif Gimel Dalet. Okay, fine. So let's just get our feet wet, and I'm going to learn the Mechaber first inside. The headline in Siman Aleph is Minui Hashayftim, appointing judges ba'aretz in Eretz Yisrael, u'v'chutz la'aretz, and appointing judges in the diaspora. And actually, we learned this many times. I don't think there is a mention about the difference between of Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz in the actual Mechaber Ramah here. It's more that Rambam says this, but in Siman Aleph, he actually doesn't make any discussion between Israel and it says Titen lecha b'chol she'arecha. The she'arecha is really in Eretz Yisrael. It could be that there is no mitzvah of minui shoftim and chutz la'aretz. There are some poskim that hold that. All right, Seif Aleph. Bisman hazeh, today's days, Danim hadayanim, whoever will get the title. Oh, by the way, we're starting this learning, Mamish Hashgacha Pratis. That we're starting this learning punkt in a time when they're grilling a judge if she could be accepted as a judge in the Supreme Court. Yeah. So today's days, the judges are whoever could qualify as a dayan doesn't mean he's able to deal with all matters. What could he deal with? Dinei Haidois and Halvois. Let me explain what Haidois is. Actually, I'll go backwards. Dinei Haidois v'Halvois. Halvois, we know what is. A halva is a loan. Chaim Yankel says that Beryl owes him $1,000. He gave him a loan. That's halvois. All issues of loans, which has financial dispute and it's common business interaction, today's dayanim could deal with it. What is haidois? So I actually broke this down better on my chart. Look what I did over here. I wrote Dine Halva, Dine Halva, Dine Halva 3 times, and Dine Halva. What are the 3 different Dine Halva? Dine Halva number 1 is, if there's a fight between me and Chaim, I claim Chaim owes me money. How do I prove it? I'm just not just saying a claim. So my first box, I was speaking about where there's a star saying that he owes me money, a document, or it was an oral agreement. I come to you, I say, hello, didn't you remember I gave you $1,000? I'm sure we were in the store, I gave you $1,000. So that's box 1. Box 2 is issues of loans, and the evidence is the Eidei Haidah. What is Eidei Haidah? There were witnesses that I said to them, you know what? Business is going so bad. And Chaim, guys, I owe Chaim $1,000. I feel bad. I owe Chaim $1,000. So there are 2 witnesses heard me admitting in front of who I admit that I owe somebody money. That's the evidence that's being brought to prove that I owe him money. The third case is Eidei Halva. What's the evidence that's being brought that I owe somebody money? The Malva gave me a loan in front of witnesses. So you see how I chopped it up? There's Halva, where there's just a loan in a document or a milva al peh. Then there is the evidence is through Haidah. There are witnesses that saw me, heard me admitting that I owe somebody money. Or there are witnesses that saw the loan. What is the common denominator in these 3? The common denominator of these 3 is somebody is going to lose his pants. There is going to be a chisaron kiss. And it's common disputes. So again, the Mechaber begins, Bizman hazeh, today's days, Danim hadayanim, the Dayanim are able to preside over Dinei Haidois, all laws of admission, all evidence based on one party admitting in front of witnesses, the halvois, or all matters of loans. Today's days, Bezdin could deal with it. Or subasisha, a husband and a wife are getting divorced, and there is the woman wants to collect her ksuba. So there is money matters. Or Yerushos, inheritance. I have a close friend who is a dayan in New York, and he says they have the most common din Torahs that he's busy with all day is fights of Yerusha. Inheritance is the most common din Torahs. Umatonos. There's a fight about a present. Did he give him the present? Did he not give? Did Reuven say he's giving this away? Could I prove that I got this as a present? Umazik mamin chaveroi. Or if I did something to hurt something that belongs to you, I cause you a damage. How many things did we learn here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I broke it down into 7 things on my chart. What's the common denominator of these 7 things? Shehein hadvarim hamatsuyim tamid. These are items that happen very often. V'yesh b'hem chisaron kis, and there is a loss of money because of these 2 checklists. Rabbi Goldstein, even though he's not samoch ish mipi ish ad Moshe Rabbeinu, could be the solution. Rabbi say, let's learn Smeh. Smeh Aleph. Bisman hazeh danim hadayonim. Says the Smeh, Amasha Kasa B'Torah, based on what the Torah writes. Shoiftim v'shoitrim tiknu lecha b'chol sharecha. Shol, do you hear me? You see what I'm reading? Shoiftim v'shoitrim tiknu lecha b'chol sharecha. The Torah gives a mitzvah that we have to appoint judges and policemen to enforce the rule. In every shar, based on this pasuk, Kasavatur, the Torah begins explaining this mitzvah, exactly what did the Torah want, and how does that mitzvah apply today? So the Torah writes like this, so the Torah writes like this. Maskina b'Gemara Be'akam the Makis. The Gemara concludes in the end of the first Perek of Makis that the Eretz Yisrael Chayavim Limlois, in Eretz Yisrael there is a mitzvah to appoint Bechol Plach uBechol Plach uBechol in every province. Whoever's mic is on, show, I think your mic is on. Mute your mic. In every province, you have to appoint a shofet, ubechol ir ve'ir. And in every city, every state has to have one, and every city has to have one. That's in Eretz Yisrael. Ubechutz la'aretz, in the diaspora out of Eretz Yisrael, it's not, the mitzvah is not as great as in Israel. Chayavim bechol plach uplach. You have to have it in the province, but not every city needs its own shofet and shater. The dafke bisman sheyeh smicha, and even this only applies when there was real smicha, the real deal. Today's days where we don't have the real smicha, kol hadayonim betelim in atayra. This whole mitzvah of shoftim v'sheitrim doesn't apply. We don't have the real deal. Kiddiksiv. How do I know that you need special dayanim today, even today? Because the Torah says, "Ve'ela mishpatim asher tasim lifneim." These are the rules that you should place in front of them. Who's them? Lifnei elikim haksuvim b'parsha. That these dayanim that are mentioned in Chumash. Parshas Mishpatim. These are the rules that they should be taught. What title are they given? Elohim. Those dayanim that deal with matters, the Mishpatim, the Torah gives them a very lofty title. The Hainu Smuchim, the Loi Hadyoitos, and not just a simple pulpit rabbi. But it's very, I'm very convincing. I want you to learn this, and I tell you, we're never going to get anywhere with this. We're never going anywhere with this. Says the Smeh, Va'anan hedyotos anan. We are not Elokim. We are all simpletons. We learn a lot. We are Kailo 20 years, but we're lacking. We'll never reach that Elokim standard. Hilkach. Therefore, ein danim min ha-Torah. There is no more judgment min ha-Torah. No dayan could do any form of din min ha-Torah. Ella, however, anan, all these bezdins that you see, and all these dayanim that you see everywhere, shlichasayu de kamoi. We are representatives of the real deal. The real deal dayanim are begging us, hey, listen, we need somebody, a representative, to hold the fort. We are only here as a shlichus from the real people. We are the shlichus of hasmuchim shahoyu b'dayis rishonim avdina. That's what we do. Umaskinon. So therefore, because we are only doing their shlichus to help them temporarily, their shlichus wasn't asked for everything. Maskinon, the Gemara comes to a conclusion, that we were only asked to do their shlichus, ela b'midah shchichi v'isbo chesaron kis. Only in matters that are common and have a loss of money. And if it doesn't have both of these points, stay out of it. Stay out of it. Only based on what I just said, says the Smeh, you can understand, you'll be able to swim through these couple of seifim. Why some things you could do, some things you can't do. You have to have these two principles in front of you, and then everything will be explained. And I'll still get back to this topic of which items you could deal with and why not all items. Point 1. This is all from the Tur, explaining the Tur. Then he goes on to another quote for the Tur. You quoted the pasuk, the Eila Mishpatim Asher Tasim Lifneya. These are the rules that you should place in front of them. Who's in front of them? These judges, the good judges, the Elokim judges. But it's funny. Since when do you place judges? Since when do you place teachings? You teach teachings. It shouldn't say ve'ela mishpatim asher tasim lifneim. It should say ve'ela mishpatim asher tilamdeim. These are the laws that teach them. By the way, this is not. It won't go down so good for what you hear today in the education field. Says the Tur, based on the Gemara. No. Every dayan has to be taught, and then there is also a part of him that has to be boom. There has to be a fist. There has to be showing strength. These are the laws that not only you teach them, you show them how to enforce it. You hand them a whip. You hand them certain utensils that should instill fear into the people, that you better listen to what we have, what we say. So, as it says in the Rambam, that in the Bezdin, when you went into court, hanging behind the judges were these kalim to scare the Tassim. You actually gave them utensils to scare the people, to make sure, hey, listen, we mean business. Ait Kasavatur, the Isib Gemara Pekambadis on that, and the Gemara says in the first pages on that, and Amar Rav Yirmiyah says, Asher Tassim Lifneim, Asher Talamda Mi Boile. It should have been written, these are the laws that you teach them, not that you place by the Ella. Rather, the Torah is telling you another din. These are the utensils, those whips and those guns or whatever that you show them. This should be there. The Kosev Rav Hai, and Rav Hai Gaon writes, Bezdin Sarich Sheyeheloi Mezumim B'Moshe Bezdin. Every Bezdin has to have ready in the courtroom makel, a stick, l'radas boy, a stick to hit with, or the tzua and a whip, lahalkas boy, v'shofar l'nadas boy. There's a process of a chas v'sholem, how you put somebody into a cherem, and you need a shofar. So, in other words, you have different utensils to instill fear. This is what the Torah says. Says the Smeh, umehatema. The Gemara says this halacha. The Torah mentions it. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Ala mechaber va'al moram. I have this $1 million question I never got to answer. Why the Smeh always refers to the Ramah Moram? Everywhere else we always refer to the Ramah. The Smeh, every time he says Moram, is the Ramah. So I'm shocked. Why does the Mechaber and the Moram and the Ramah hishmituza? They skip this halacha that a bezdin, a courtroom, needs a whip. The gam loiraisi l'rabanan kishishoyin is harim. I'm not a new kid in the block, says the Smeh. I don't see the seasoned rabbis in their courtrooms in the Bezdin Shtibel to have a whip hanging. If it's a din, it's a din. Why not? So Eitan writes, maybe the later generations could not handle it. We are softer. Yeah. So we'll soon see. The Esher, says the Smeh, could be the Svirle, the Lehutzach Lazah, who needed, which Dayanim needed whips? The Elokims. Elo Dayanim Smuchim. The real ones, you're the real deal, you need the whip. The Tasim Lefneihem Ksiv. So why is it that way? Because that we're not even the real Dayanim. So if there's a situation where there's real Dayanim, yes, Tasim, make sure you also give him the whip. Show him that he should have a whip. But if it's not even the real Bezdin, maybe that's why when we're dealing Hilchas Dayanim and we're discussing today matters of today, we don't have to do it because it's not the real Dayan. Avo, says the Smeh, that's an answer. But Stimas Lashon Rav Hai Hanau, from the simple words of Rav Hai going, which I quote before, Vatur, Sheheviu, which I quoted that you need a whip, doesn't seem to agree that only Dayanim Hasmuchim need it. And the Smeh is left with the Tzarechiyun. Smeh was a student of Ramah and a relative, so that's why he would call him Maram. Or maybe he's saying mighty V'Rabbi Moshe. Why? What's Moram? The Ramah is Rab Moshe Isserlish. So if you're saying he was his personal teacher, it can't be he was his personal teacher. The Smeh is the Prisha and the Drisha. The Prisha and the Drisha on the tour. I don't know, maybe. You heard it from me? I on the recording, I went through the history. I don't know. Anyways, the Smeh was left with a question. Why does the Shulchan Aruch not say the halacha of Tasim Lefneim? Rabbi said, please look in the Pischei Tshuva. Pischei Tshuva Aleph. Seif Aleph Bizman Hazeh, Ayin Be'er Heitev. Where the Be'er Heitev condenses what the Smeh spoke about, that we are only shluchim and we're not the real thing. V'ayin oid b'Smeh, look in the second part of the Smeh, where the Smeh goes on, umehatema ala mechaber umaram, where he asks a question of the mechaber and Ramam, shehishmituzah, that they skipped over the halacha that you need to have a whip. And he says, the Smeh says, I don't even see anybody. The real Fruma Yidden today, the real Fruma Dayanim, I don't see them to be Nizharim. Sheyil Lefneim Ela Kalim. The Avshar, and he suggested an answer, maybe only the real Dayanim need it. Says the Pischei Tshuva, V'ayin b'Tshuvas Shvus Yaakov, Simen Kuf Lamed Daled, Shekasav, that he writes, the Divrei HaSmeh Bazeh Loi B'Ridin Klau. What the Smeh is discussing here is very unclear. The Halasham, and therefore he concludes, the Mi Sharoitza Linikain, if there's any Bezdin today that wants to act in this way, Sheyiloi B'Makim Bezdin Elu HaKelim, any Bezdin wants to instill fear into the clients, and in their courtroom they have these whips hanging, Rashai, you're allowed to do it. V'loi Mechze Kiyura. And you don't look like an arrogant, stuck-up Bezdin because you have these kelim. V'ayin sham oid b'chelik beis b'sefer sefer, and he goes v'ayin sham b'sefer te'esvi, that he writes the im ein ha'am sarvanim, if the people don't not listen. You're living in a nice place where they listen. Asur lasis came. So the bottom line is, the Smeh doesn't know why we don't do it. He suggested an answer. Because he doesn't know why we don't do it, could it be done? Should it be done? So the Pischei Tshuva says, why not? However, if you feel it's important, that will help, why not? All right, let's go back into the Mechaber. The Mechaber gave a group of things. I'm sorry, not the Mechaber, the Smeh. Smeh Beis. The Mechaber gave a group of things that even today's Dayanim, which are only representing the real Dayanim, they could deal with. Says Smeh Beis, Dinai Haidois V'Halvois, says the Smeh, Loshen Hatur. He's quoting, he's using the same words the Tur says. Haidois V'Halvois. What does Haidois mean? Pirish, Sheteveya Oisoi, I am claiming money from you, Be'edei Haidah. My evidence that I'm bringing that you owe me money is the witnesses of Haidah. What type of witnesses are they? Eidei Haidah are, where's Moshe Gutman? Moshe, you here? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, your camera was not in. I know I'm missing one of the good guys. What is Eidei Haidah? Shahoida loy b'fneihem. They heard me admitting in front of them, I owe Chaim $1,000. That's the evidence that's being brought that I owe money. That's Haidah. I or Shehilva Oisei b'fneihem. Or he brings the witnesses that say we saw the money, the pass of the money, transfer of money, it was done in front of us. Those are matters that today's days the Bezdin could deal with. Huadin says the Smeh, the same would be in Tavai Bahalva B'Loyedim. What's this case? Which case is this on my chart? The first box, Baal Peh. I come over to you and I say, Chaim, it's about time you give me back the $1,000. So you look at me and say, Rabbi Wilhelm, what's going on? What are you drinking? What kind of $1,000? So I say, don't you remember we were shopping together in the store in Best Buy and you saw a nice gadget and you asked me to give you $1,000? There was no star, there was no Adim. I'm sure you owe me the money. I am sure you owe me the money. You're saying, I don't owe any money. So the halacha says, for you, I got to give you one Yesoida. It's not easy to get money out of a Jew. In the sense, for me to make you, not only me, for Bezdin to make you pay somebody money, there has to be clear evidence. In terms of halacha, if the money is in my pocket, it belongs to me. You want me to give you some of my hard-earned money, you have to prove it. Unless you have great proof, I don't have to give it to you. Now, when you come to me and say, you gave me $1,000 in a line in the Best Buy, and I say no, obviously I won't have to pay him. But there's still a tainas bari against me. The tainas bari means somebody is screaming bloody murder that I owe money. I can't just push him away. So I have to make a shvuah hesses, a shvuah derabbanan. So in any one of these cases, Bezdin could deal with, because these are cases of financial matters that happen. The next Smeh Gimel, v'yesh bahem chisaron kis. There is a loss of money. So the Smeh is going to be bothered. What kind of loss of money is there in inheritance? In what sense? You never had that money. It's not like your money is going to the garbage. This is a new windfall. Why is that considered a chisaron kis? Says the Smeh, gam b'yerushes, even in inheritance, or matones, or presents, lefi divrei hateveya, the one who is demanding to get this, yesh b'hem chisaron kis. The bottom line is, he's losing out some money. The one who wants to get this, he says, I have rights to this in the Yerusha, in the will, or this was given to me as a present, whatever. even though it's extra money, but it's a fact he's losing money. He claims he has rights to it. Now the Smeh is going to explain why. Why do we even establish this rule that because of these two common points, yeah, let the make-believe guys also have a say, even though they're not smuchim, even though they're not elikim. Why? Why don't we just say you don't know, you're not good enough? Says the Smeh v'hatam bekulam. The basic reason for all this is kidei shelo yuno deles b'fnei halovyon. We want to make sure that the commerce, the business, that people will interact. If the rich will have very little guarantee that getting the money back, they're never going to give a loan. There will never be business. So the door should not be shut b'fnei lovyon, in front of somebody who needs a loan. We say, don't worry, you'll get your money back, because if any dispute happens, we have rights to deal with these matters. Just like we're trying to make business work, we want people to interact. There's another thing why we want Bezdin. We want to make sure there's no scammers. If there is no law and order, if you're defunding the police, there's going to be looting. If you say there is some form of law and order, the oisei avla, those who are crooked, those who are scammers, will have to sing and dance to somebody. Because of these two reasons, Amru Rabbanan, the Chachamim said, "Lemevat shlichusayu dekamoi." Please represent those of the earlier generations. Those of the earlier generations, if they would be here, they for sure could have done it. But because they're not here, please represent them. All right, so what did we cover? We covered, on my chart, we basically covered up to here. Everything up to here is covered. Says the Smeh, if these are the reasons why we allow the second tier of judges to get involved, if that's the reasons, Nirali appears to me, the Huadin Lishar in Yonim Gedolim. Same should apply for other big issues. Even if they're not financial issues. If you need the world to continue running properly, if that's the reason why we accept these people of Dayanim, then even other issues, we should accept them. Sha'arei Matzinu, because we found Sha'amru the Kabul Gadim Bizman Hazeh. Why do the Dayanim today have a right to make Gerim? You're not a real Dayan. It's an issue that we can't not accept Gerim. So if we cannot accept Gerim, we'll allow even something like this. Afal gav deloy shchiach, even though it's not common. The gam matzina, we also find to have a masin agitin bebavel. Sometimes, if matters between a husband and wife were very, very nasty, and they were fighting against each other, and the husband, they should have gotten divorced, and the husband was playing nasty, and he says no, he's going to mess the wife up forever, so he's not going to give her a get, so she'll never be able to remarry. Sometimes Bezdin will force him to give a get. Excuse me, you're not even a real Dayan. Okay, and it's not even issues of financing. It's just the issues, they want to make sure that there's a little more peace. You're right. If Bezdin's job is also to make peace, even in matters like this, we'll accept them. Afal gav the lesbu chesar and kiss. The commercial kasev ran ubeis Yosef ubeirakim Moshe b'hagoyso. Okay, so we got the first thing under our belt, that there are three conditions now. Number one, there has to be chesar and kiss, and matzui, and the other one based on the Shema or inyanim gedolim, things that we can't manage if Bezdin wouldn't have the authority to deal with it. So therefore, including in today's days, the Dayanim of today could be Mekabel Geirim and could also be involved in Gittin, in Mas and Al Gittin. Okay, that's for now. And again, I welcome everybody, and this is only going to get better and better. And I'm very, very proud of it. There's a couple of guys here who are doing more than a couple. Yuda, Moshe, Ari Begun, Yossi Fegelstock. These 4 guys learned this, I think, once or even twice. But this time we're going to do it again and better. Okay, kol hakavod. Thank you, everybody.